Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. This is my weekly show where my guests and I each pick a film related in some shape or form, and hopefully by the end of this episode, you have two movies to go check out. And it is that time of the month again. I'm joined by my friend, and here we got Jeff. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, anytime.
And we are doing a double dose of some Bradley Cooper films from like early to mid 2010s. I feel like this was like right before he really started getting into becoming an Oscar darling, also around the same time that he was doing some work with David O. Russell. But we're going to be talking about Burnt and Limitless. So let's get started with Burnt, which came out in 2015. The temperamental chef of a London restaurant demands perfection from his staff. Well, that is a very simple way of putting that, directed by John
hmm
Wells and written by Stephen Knight of Peaky Blinders fame. But Jeff, what were your general thoughts on Burnt?
it made me want to watch The Bear, that's for sure.
There you go.
No, I really liked the film. Because I think because I'm such a fan of The Bear, I was so drawn to this film, and
Hmm.
I can see a lot of similarities between the two, and you can tell that you know, Storer kind of had this film in mind when making it because it just there's so much that the two have in common with each other. Bradley Cooper is essentially playing the Carmy role, although although every character in this are and from both things are completely different from each other. But
Hmm.
you see that raw anger and frustration and the need for perfection in both of these things, and that's something in this film that like if I had not already seen The Bear and like understood all of that, I'd be looking at this like, whoa, he is flying way off the handle. I mean, he already
Yeah.
was, but I was less surprised by it because I had already seen The Bear and seen all the crazy, fights and things that they had in there.
Yeah, this was a film that I remember when this came out, I hadn't seen it. And upon watching this, I'm like, there's definitely a lot that I appreciated and liked about the film. Something as a whole just didn't wholly click for me.
hmm
And there's definitely some specific things that stuck out that didn't really work. But like, I think Bradley Cooper, like this film would not work anywhere near as well as it does without somebody like Bradley Cooper
Yeah,
anchoring it down because I think he gives a really great performance. This has a stacked cast with a lot
I
of
was shocked how many people I knew in this cast.
mhm.
Like I
There's
had
the
no idea that like Lily James was in it, Alicia
mhm.
Vikander was in it, Uma Thurman, like even Emma Thompson. I mean, she's not in it for that long, but like I went into this movie not realizing that even like Daniel Bruhl was in it.
Mhm. Well, and I think that Wells gives a good effort in terms of directing this. This has a very like contemporary, like sleek kind of feel to it. And I
Mhm.
think that works for like the refinement of the setting. Like we're in like high-end restaurants, and I feel like it does capture that vibe well. And I think a lot of the cast do great jobs with their performances. I'm not fully convinced of some of the characters themselves, but I do feel like a lot of the actors do a really fine job bringing them to life. It was hard for me to fully buy into Sienna Miller's character just getting over the way that he treated her, and especially like the way he like
Yeah.
will put his hands on her. That one scene where I'm just like, and like how much after this scene were they like kissing and
hmm
developing this relation? Like I didn't 100% buy that. I don't think the film did enough for me to see like her getting past the fact that like he physically assaulted her, and
Yeah.
not even
Yeah.
like the verbal abuse, which to your point, that's the environment that it seems like a lot of these kitchens are like, which I would never want a kitchen like this because of that point. But like, it's high stress, and I've seen this, and oh, what was that? forgot what the name of it was, Boiling Point, I think, with
Yeah,
Stephen
I'm
Graham.
yeah, that one's on my list to watch.
I definitely would have paired that with this if that wasn't as recent as it was, because that was
Right.
definitely within the past 10 years. Like, you get that part. The physical, like him grabbing her like that, I'm like, yeah. And especially like she has a daughter and stuff like that. And I get like he had
Hmm.
that really nice moment with the daughter and she like automatically melts. And just like this man was assaulting you like 2 scenes ago. So like for me at least that didn't work as well. I was actually really disappointed with Alicia Vikander's presence in this movie because they gave her nothing. Nothing to work with
Yeah,
like at all. And then she wound up being this like very Deus Ex Machina kind of like plot device towards the end of the
no
film where
pun
I'm like,
intended.
yeah, I didn't actually think of it. I said that and
The
like
moment you said that, I was like, oh, she was in Ex Machina.
and now I realize like, yep, I inadvertently did that. But like the fact that one of the biggest conflicts of this movie, she just like magically just makes disappear. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Like those kinds of things kept me from like really loving this movie. But
Hmm.
I'll admit, like, this was a very entertaining film to watch. And, like, there was one other thing that I felt like wasn't set up well enough that has to do with Omar Sy's character. Love the moment, but I'm just like, this felt like it was completely out of left field. And, like, from a narrative standpoint, but, like, besides, like, those key things kept me back from really loving this, but there was a lot of things about this film that I did love, though.
Hmm. I think I agree. There is a lot that I really liked about this. I agree with you in the part that Sienna Miller's character really does change way too quickly, and
Mm,
like the fight that they end up having early on, that seems like a end of the second act, like getting closer to the climax type of fight,
mm,
like not so early in the film type of fight. Like it would make sense if he was just yelling and yelling and yelling, and she was just like, "Whoa, this is weird. I'm out of here."
mhm.
Like not necessarily specifically to her,
Yeah.
like because her decision to come back is baffling to me.
Hmm. Where it's just like,
Yeah,
I
like
don't
that
buy
fight
this
would
so
make
well.
like that. I think that fight would make more sense if he was um like after they had already like started like kissing and kind of seeing feelings and stuff like that. That's when that fight would have made more sense.
Like that fight felt so targeted at her for no reason because like
Hmm.
everybody else he just yelled at. But then like he went straight at her.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, man, calm the hell down. And
it kind of
like,
makes me wonder if maybe like maybe it was the script or maybe it was in the editing. Like things just kind of got flopped around and it kind of moved in the
mhm.
edit bay or on the cutting room floor or something like that, where like that scene just got moved up because they needed some kind of tension between them early or something. I don't know.
I I definitely understand what you're saying there in terms of like that didn't feel quite earned at that
Hmm.
point in the story. And that's probably my biggest thing about this. I didn't love the script to this movie. I
Yeah.
do appreciate the direction and I think the performances are great. Like his rival Montgomery Reese, played by Matthew Reese. Um, I really enjoy his dynamic, like moment where he's just like completely crashing out, flipping all the
Hmm.
tables and everything. I'm like, these guys need to like calm the hell down. And having what I appreciate about the film like this, having actors of caliber of like an Emma Thompson who comes in and adds some weight to a
Hmm.
particular character. It was cool. Like I'm not saying I don't think Uma Thurman's on the same level of actor as Emma Thompson. Emma Thompson is absolutely amazing, but like also Uma Thurman being able to slip into a role like that specifically to add a little bit of weight to it. And I love Daniel Bruhl. He's so good in everything that he pops
Hmm.
up. even when he isn't given the most to work with. But I love the tension between him and Bradley Cooper's character because there's obviously a lot of other underlying tensions there as we discover about how Daniel Bruhl's character Tony really feels about Adam. But like he put him through the ringer. Like he put him
Hmm.
through a lot pre this movie. And that's one thing I do believe is I appreciated that I think they did a good job of making us feel all the stuff that happened before the events of this movie. Like we feel the pain that he caused a lot of people in
Right.
this, and I felt like that was pretty believable. But in general, like it definitely had like is a little bit melodramatic at times and stuff like that, sure, but like this is like a high tension kind of thing. It's like it could feel a little bit big with it. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest asset this film had was Bradley Cooper. I think he's excellent. And
Yeah,
it's no
he's the best part of it.
it's no surprise to me that he's become such an Oscar darling in terms of like his acting. Um and he just does such a great job of anchoring this whole film down. He's so damn charismatic. And it makes so much sense to me that even in like a small role in a show like Alias, he made an impact and then his career just kept rising from there. And because when did Silver Linings Playbook come out? Was that 2012?
I think so. I'm pretty sure
So
that was
like
2012.
so this was a couple years after that. This actually, you know what? This is the same year as American Hustle, isn't it? Or
No,
around the same.
American
Is
Hustle was
that
the year
2013?
after.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like there's definitely like this is that time where Bradley Cooper was really finding himself and he did a great job anchoring this film down for sure. And
Hmm.
then just to reiterate, like this looks like a really classy looking movie. Like they really
Yeah.
captured that like high end restaurant, high society kind of feel to everything really well for sure. But I guess Jeff, is there anything else that you wanted to add about Burnt?
No, I think it's one of those films that I like and I will come back to at some point. Maybe not, super soon, but I can definitely see myself like if I want to watch like a lot of movies about like food or something like that, because like
Hmm.
I'll throw this in the mix with like Chef and Big Night. If I
Hmm.
watch Boiling Point at this point, I'll throw Boiling Point in that mix too. Um, there was one thing that I noticed about this was the score was by Rob Simonson, and at the end of the film, I recognized a piece of his score that was in a different film of his from a couple years
Interesting.
earlier. And I looked at the score of this film, and that particular track is not on there, but I remember it so well because
Interesting.
it was in the Spectacular Now,
Mm.
which he also did. And I'm like, why would he put that song in this movie? Like I know the song very well.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why would he put this piece of music in a different movie of his? And he doesn't even like try to incorporate it into the main movie's soundtrack. I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me. But that was just one little thing that I noticed, and I'm like, no one else is going to notice it but me. But I just needed to say something about it.
Interesting little nugget there, little
Yeah.
details to look at. I think the last two things I'll say, one, this is like an hour and 40 minutes. So it's a pretty
Yeah.
lean movie and it's pretty watchable in terms of
Hmm.
that way. And I think this will be a movie that I'd come back and rewatch again. And the other thing was the other one little added thematic element of like him being more of a product of the past and not really wanting to buy into like new age cooking, like the food
Hmm.
condoms, and like cooking stuff in like plastic bags and stuff like that. I thought that was an they didn't like dig too deep into it, but I thought that was a nice little interesting added layer, especially in his
Yeah.
conflict with Matthew Reese's character.
I kind of wish they would have dug into that a little bit more because it just kind of shows if they would have shown more things like that where he's like opening his mind to the ideas his other chefs have, then that would have kind of made me like feel for his character a little bit more.
Mhm.
Um, I don't totally. I also don't. One thing I'll mention too, and I'm sorry to cut you off here, is
Nope.
it's because it just made me think of this. I don't totally like the angle of like the drug dealers like plot line of this. Like I thought that was just kind of too much in this.
I feel
It didn't have anything to do with the story
Mhm.
overall. And I
Well,
guess it was really only so that Alicia Vikander's character could come in for her two scenes, you know.
yeah, two scenes, which also, so if I remember correctly, the trailers really focus on that point with
Oh, I
like,
never watched the trailer. I have no idea.
because I'm trying to remember back, because for some reason I thought this movie had to deal with like mafia or crime and stuff like that. And I feel like because the marketing probably leaned into that a little bit more. But at the end of the day, it's pretty non-consequential, except, he gets beat up
Yeah.
once.
Yeah,
And
it really doesn't make any sense in the grand scheme of things.
like, I can understand that, like, he had obviously has his past and owes people money and stuff like that. I feel like it would have had more impact if they didn't just so easily and cleanly fixed it.
Hmm.
Like, and they're just like, "Oh, you're good." I'm like, that seems too easy. I don't feel like these types of people would just give up that easy. But
Yeah.
that's what happened. So I think the more you think about the movie, probably the more holes you're gonna find. But upon just watching it, and I think Bradley Cooper being so charismatic really does a wonder for it. Is just like I bought into it a decent amount while watching it, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, that didn't really work very well.
Well, then that's what I was going to say. The more I thought about it just here with you talking about it, the more I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. Like, I had not given it any other thought since I watched it the other day
Mhm.
until we started talking about it. And so now we're like bringing these up. I'm like, oh, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't really make any sense either.
I think it's one of those kinds of movies that this is just a fun watch,
Yeah.
and the less you think about it, the more you'll just enjoy the ride, to be
Yeah,
honest.
exactly.
Which also,
It's a fun watch.
which maybe that's another added layer to this double feature because Limitless is also a movie. The more you think about it, I'm like, that doesn't make much sense. But this is from 2011, and this is a sci-fi thriller. And I distinctly remember when this movie came out because I'm like, that
Me
seems so
too.
cool to like 20-year-old Shane. When this movie came out, a mysterious pill that enables the user to access 100% of their brain's abilities transforms a struggling writer into a financial wizard, but also puts him in a new world with many dangers because who doesn't love a good story that's like, what if we could use 100% of our brains, despite the fact that we do actually use brain? But that's a fun thing between this and Lucy. This was a very interesting time for opening up people's brains. And this is from director Neil Berger, who Neil Berger's had such an interesting and odd career as a director because he had like Divergent and Voyagers, so like those kind of like YA kinds of things. But he also
Hmm.
directed The Illusionist and the Untouchables remake, The Upside, and stuff like that. And here we got Limitless. But apparently he was involved in the series too. Because yeah, they made a series out of this. But this is indeed starring Bradley Cooper.
And he did some episodes of Billions too. I'm just looking at
Interesting.
it right now. I love Billions.
And yes, I distinctly remember this movie for being a movie that also starred Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro before, they kept doing a bunch of David O. Russell movies together. But Jeff, what were your
Hmm.
general thoughts on Limitless?
This was my first time watching it.
Mhm.
I did not see it when it come out because I don't remember what I was doing at the time, but I just was like, I'm not buying it. I'm just not going to bother. It was probably in this like weird stage of my life where I was like in between the high school and college, and I was just like, I'm just gonna I'll get to it when I get to it, and I just never did.
Mhm.
Plus, I just didn't really buy the idea of like a drug that opens up your brain to let you do whatever you want. I thought for some reason that like this movie took it to like where he was had like these like superpowers or something, but that was
That's the
me just not
movie
really understanding.
Lucy
Well, no, no, no. I know
before
what
she
Lucy is.
turns
I've
into.
seen Lucy, and I definitely didn't think it was like anything like Lucy, but it made me think it was something different than what it was, and I was like, I'm not a fan. Like, there's parts in this movie that just baffle me. Like, the only thing that I actually really enjoyed about this was like, and I kind of wish he would have stayed on this more, was that he uses the pill to write more, like to write his book. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, like, I'm in the midst of writing a book now too. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, oh, I wish I had that pill. God, I'd get so much done.
Which I feel, I think going back to one of my points for Burnt, I think this movie works as much as it does because of Bradley Cooper. Like
Yeah.
he is such a charismatic presence in this movie, especially once he gets like full blown like, oh, I'm sexy now and chic and dress up in suits because
Hmm.
I use my brain now. But like this movie's so dumb.
Yeah.
So dumb. I'm like, should know that it's dumb just from the concept because this is absurd. This is an absolutely ridiculous idea. And like, I don't think this film ever reaches the point where it's having real, authentic commentary that like a really good sci-fi film should be doing.
Yeah.
This is just leaning into like the pulpy nature of like, oh my God, now I have people want to kill me. Or like powerful people want to come after me, or this pill is killing me. And it leans into that kind of stuff instead of thinking about like the high concept thematic things that you could be doing. And to be honest, that's what I expect from a burger film because honestly, most of his movies are very much like shove that popcorn in your mouth and shut up and watch. And this one definitely felt that way because like I feel like the second you start trying to unpack how this all works or what makes sense or not, you lost it. That's
Yeah.
not the kind of movie this is. And you know, it's interesting like you brought up like you really liked how like the writing aspect it's so unfocused. Like there's no
Yeah.
like it never finds its lane and sticks to it. It's like he's using it for writing. Oh, now he has to team up with this like guy that this drug dealer guy or like
Hmm.
he has this relationship. He has this previous marriage and like how that all fits together. And then you have this whole tension with Robert De Niro's character and it just feels like I enjoyed some of it for what it was. Like I feel like I was pretty dialed in for like the first act of like, oh, what's the possibilities of this? And then it just kind of like
Yeah.
spirals
Well,
into
it
whatever.
takes two big jumps for like for what this guy does. He goes from writing a book to stock trading, and then he goes from stock trading to, spoiler alert, to the end. He's like
Yeah,
running for like Congress or Senate or
yeah.
whatever. And I'm like, how the fuck? How do you get from one to one to one? That doesn't make any sense.
I feel like this might actually make more sense as a series because
Yeah.
like giving time to actually get to those points, but for like it's an hour and 45 minutes and
Hmm.
they're taking huge narrative leaps and jumps between stuff and it's just like how do we get here?
Yeah.
Do we get point A to point B? But like I said, I think Bradley Cooper's great in this. Like I wouldn't say this is an inspired De Niro performance. It's very much of like
No.
the aughts
Honestly, it
and
could have it could have
2010.
yeah, it could have been done by anyone else if you're asking me. Like
I wish it was
I
kind of
think
Al
they just needed a
Pacino just so that he could be like, oh, and just like at least like throw something wild at it because it was pretty
yeah.
bland and particularly interesting.
Yeah, I think they could have probably like I think they really just put him in there just to have another name for the
100%.
billboard, and
And he
that's
got a
really
paycheck.
all it was for. Yeah, that's really all it was for. And going back to your point about the TV series, I I never watched the series, but I'll like I just know a little bit that it's based, it's based on basically like this guy uses the pill to help, the FBI catch criminals and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's actually like a better use of this kind of subject matter than what
That's a
at least from first glance, that's a better use of the film plot than what this film actually is.
that's a much more interesting concept what this
Yeah.
movie is. 'Cause the issue with this movie, it doesn't have a focus. To your
Hmm.
point, it's like, well, what if they just like leaned in and focused on one of these things? But it had, I think, it was written by Leslie Dixon. So this is based off of a novel, The Dark Fields. I'd be interested
Hmm.
to see what this novel's like, to be perfectly honest.
I'd be
I feel
curious
like
too.
Dixon's screenplay is just trying to do way too much, and it just nothing really clicks after a while. And I feel like the tension and suspense of like, ooh, what's gonna happen next definitely wears off by the second act. And then you're just kind of like, this is just getting ridiculous. And I feel like it jumped into this pill is killing me way too quickly.
Yeah.
And like that felt like it was rushed in, and now it's like, oh my God, what's gonna happen to me? And like he has this relationship with Abby Cornish's character, and like
Which
I
I don't buy for 1 second, to be honest.
no, and it's just like you didn't want to have anything to do with this guy like a second ago, and now automatically like, oh my God, out of nowhere, this man is completely changed. That's not a red flag.
Hmm.
That's not a red flag at all. And like the whole thing where his ex-wife wound up taking the pills and she was dying, and I'm like, this is getting way too caught up in the weeds of randomly trying to like thread all these things together. I'm just like, and so many of them just didn't amount to anything. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then by the end, it's just like, so this dude's gonna be like the most all-powerful human being. He's gonna be the president of the United States. And it's just like tells off Robert De Niro and just like, well, that's a wrap, folks.
Yeah. One thing that kind of surprised me, not surprised me, like that doesn't make sense in this film was that like the first time he uses the pill, he gets back to his apartment, he's talking to like the landlord's like wife or girlfriend or something
Mhm.
about like he notices that like that she's got like the law textbook and stuff, but and then
Yeah.
he just spouts off all this stuff he knows about the law. I'm like, you can't just know that. Like, you can't just see a corner of a book and know what's in the book if you haven't read the book. Like, if you know, if I took the pill and that same situation happened to me, I wouldn't be able to just spout off the law. Like I read the book because if I've never read the book, I have no idea what's in the book.
This movie is Logic Leap the movie.
Yeah.
And like there's just like he's leaping through like days at one point, and like, oh, and like the supposed like murder, like all that stuff. I'm like, where's this going? And
Yeah.
like all of these plot threads is just like that's getting so ridiculous. But no, there's so the amount of logic gymnastics that you have to do to like cue into this movie is way too much effort for you to like actually feel invested in the movie. It's an interesting concept, but it's so dumb.
Yeah.
And really rides on the fact that like Bradley Cooper is a very charismatic lead. And there's like an extended director's cut version of this movie, and I can't even imagine what that's like.
Kind of
Um
actually would be interested to watch that if to just to see what the differences are.
I'm hoping they give it more space to like explore these ideas. And also, for the record, this has a 7.4 on IMDb.
That blows my mind.
I highly doubt that the critic rating is anywhere near that on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those kinds of things where it's like, I could easily see this movie being one of those films where like the crowd just shut it off, just enjoy the ridiculousness that is this movie, and shove some popcorn in and just go for a wild ride. Because that's
And I think
basically what
that's
it is.
yeah, and that's basically like when this movie kind of came out is when a lot of the movies that came around this time were kind of like that. You just kind of turn your brain off and watch them.
So this movie gives me so many vibes of In Time
Hmm.
with Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried, and just that idea of this big high concept kind of thing that had so much potential, but then you just choose to focus on what in the actual narrative of the film. And I feel like that's such an important thing to remember, the difference between plot and narrative, and like concept and narrative. Like you can have this great concept and then you focus the whole entire movie on a trashy romance instead of like the big ideas that you could be playing with. That's like the cardinal sin of so many like high concept ideas, is that there's so much potential with it, and then what you choose to tell the story with just
Hmm.
is so disappointing. That's this one. It's just like you had
Yeah.
such this had so much potential, and even to your point, like the even the just basic concept of the show seems so much more inspired than this. Because at least
Yeah.
it picks a lane. Like it has a focus. Maybe that's
Hmm.
why they made the show. They're like, we didn't really do that so great. Let's do this spinoff. This must have made money if this had a show that they created after it. But I guess Jeff, do you have anything else to add about Limitless?
No, I didn't totally love it. I probably won't ever go back to it, and that's fine with me.
Here you go. Yeah, I'm probably never gonna watch this again, to be perfectly honest, unless somebody chooses to want to do it for another podcast. But yeah, I'm not gonna come back to this one on my own. But that's a wrap on another episode of the Wasteland Retrospective. So next week, my wife Jess is going to be back on, and we're going to be doing a double dose of superhero Sam Raimi flicks with Darkman and Spider-Man. Not the team up, but that would be an interesting one. I want to see Liam Neeson team up with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. But next month, Jeff and I are going to be doing a double dose of some Nora Ephron written rom-coms with Sleepless in Seattle and When Harry Met Sally, which honestly, When Harry Met Sally has just grown on me so much in the past couple of years, and it's like skyrocketed into one of my favorite movies. So looking forward to rewatching that and talking about it again. But Jeff, thank you so much for coming on and always talking movies with me.
Of course, happy to.
And thank all of you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What are some of your favorite Bradley Cooper films that aren't in that like Bradley Cooper directed or David O. Russell directed? Because I feel like those are like the main big name films that he's done, especially for like this era specifically. Make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPDM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding. So many shows, so many topics. You'll find something you'll enjoy, especially if you love movies. And you want to become part of the crew by being a guest on one of these shows or making your own podcast. Make sure to reach out to us on our website. And if you like our logo, check out HiFlyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.